What's everyone? Welcome to Grace students. It's been an awesome night already. Who here had homecoming this weekend? Who had homecoming? Couple of homecoming? All right, that's awesome. Was it a good time? Good time? Who did not enjoy homecoming? Like you went and you didn't enjoy it? Okay, a couple people. I've heard like bad reviews so far. I've heard some good reviews, but I hope that it was everything you wanted it to be. Tonight we are in week 3 of a series called Best Night of the Week. So with some passion, vigor, excitement, look at someone next to you and say, it's the best night of the week. It is. Man, Fridays are awesome. Saturdays are awesome, but there's something special about Sunday nights. Well, we're going to get into a topic tonight. I want to start off with a story. I want to tell you about myself when I was in 7th grade. In 7th grade, I was a unathletic, unattractive, not really, actually I was kind of funny. That was the only thing I had going for me was that I was funny. I didn't have a lot of friends, and I definitely didn't have any girls interested in me at all. That was my 7th grade life. So I made a big decision to change my fortunes. I decided to join the football team, and this is what I looked like. I struck fear into the hearts of my enemies, right? When people lined up across me in the football field, they were like, I don't want to mess with this dude. He's got like something crazy in his eyes, right? No, I was terrible at football. In my 1-year career, 7th grade, I played wide receiver and cornerback. I had 0 catches and I had 0 tackles. That's called making no impact, no contribution whatsoever. And so after that year, I stopped playing football. I realized it wasn't for me. But why did I play football? A couple of reasons. Number one, I didn't have any friends, like I said. So I wanted to make some friends. I wanted to meet some people. 7th grade me had 2 friends I sat with at lunch, and we traded Pokemon cards and talked about Pokemon, and that was it. That leads to point number 2, which was that girls weren't interested in me. I don't understand why they weren't at the time, but they weren't. So I thought maybe if I play football, then maybe girls would be interested and they'd want to talk to me more. That failed because I was terrible at football. But the third reason I played football was because there's something in me that I think is in all of us that made me want to be a contributor. It made me want to be like a difference maker. And if you are writing notes, we're going to start by talking about this word, being a contributor. I think this is true of you. I want to play a little Would You Rather, and you can shout out your answer. For example, would you rather, number 1, you can shout out number 1 or 2. Would you rather, number 1, be a bench warmer, or number 2, would you rather score the game-winning touchdown? What's true of you, 1 or 2? 2. This is the game-winning touchdown, okay? Like Baker Mayfield almost threw to Odell Beckham and totally screwed up. But a win's a win. It's okay. The Browns won. All right, help me out. Number 1 or 2. Would you rather be number 1 on the bench or number 2 score the game-winning touchdown? What would you say? Okay, a little bit more excitement there. That's good. All right, for maybe a different crowd here, would you rather, number 1, be the first chair in band, or number 2, get relegated to playing the triangle? Number 1 or 2? Okay, a couple of people want to play the triangle, and I think that's awesome. Third one here. Would you rather, number 1, be an influencer with a ton of followers, you're making a ton of money, or number 2, would you rather be just a person that likes other people's posts? Number 1 or 2, what would you rather be? 2, okay, she's honest. So a lot of people, if we're honest, right, we'd love to have a huge following and do sponsored ads and vlog our entire day, even though no one cares, and sell some sort of product nobody wants. Because why? Because we want to feel like a contributor. There's something inside of you and I, right? Whether you're a freshman or a senior, you want to be a difference maker. But on the other hand, we want to be a contributor, but there's another word here. A lot of us have a desire in us to just be a consumer, right? We want to be a contributor, but at the same time, we kind of just want to be a consumer. Well, who's a consumer? A consumer is someone who just kind of takes. They don't really work for something, they just want to receive it. And so give a little example here that shows that we all are consumers. Would you rather, number 1, do all of the eating, or number 2, do all of the cleaning? 1 or 2, what would you say? Right? We love to eat. Nobody likes to have to do the dishes. And yet you're fine, perfectly fine, eating a home-cooked meal and letting your mom do all the dishes, right? So there's something about that. You're a little bit of a consumer when you do that. Next one, would you rather do all of the work, or number 2, just get good grades for doing nothing in the group project? What would you rather have, 1 or 2? One or two? Okay, a little bit. Does anyone know a person that never pulls their weight on a group project but still gets a good grade? Anyone know that person? Don't point at them if they're in the room. But that person is a consumer. They want to receive the benefits, they want to put in the work. And finally, I really resonate with this one. Would you rather, number one, take a nap, or number two, rake the leaves? One, right? Most of us would rather take the nap and let someone else do the work. These two things are dueling within us. We have a part of us that wants to be a contributor. I want to make a difference. I want to do something that matters. And on the other hand, there's a part of us that just wants to sit back and let everyone else do the work, and we just want to receive, receive, receive. This plays out in our lives, but it really plays out actually in our faith. It plays out in our faith. And so I want to ask yourself this question. When it comes to your faith, your relationship with Jesus, your engagement with church, are you a contributor or are you a consumer? Are you a contributor or are you a consumer? You don't have to answer it out loud, but think about your faith. Are you more concerned about what you can get from God, and that's what really motivates your faith? Or are you concerned about what you can give to other people and give to God through service? Are you more of a contributor or a consumer? A consumer type faith shows up to church and just says, hey, pastor, feed me, give me what I need. I'm just going to sit in the chairs. I'm just going to receive, receive, receive. But a contributor faith says, no, I want to grow from the message. I want to worship God. I want to receive all that stuff, but I actually want to be a difference maker. I want God to use me to impact other people. And here's what I want you to find out tonight. This is the reason why we're talking about this. I want you to discover this, that you were created by God on purpose, for purpose, and with a purpose. You were created to actually be a contributor. You might feel like me when I was in 7th grade on the football team, where I realized quickly I had nothing to offer. I couldn't make a difference. You might feel like that when it comes to your faith. I want you to know you're wrong if that's what you believe. God has created you, He's gifted you, and He wants you to be a contributor, and you actually can make a difference and impact other people with your life. We say here that we exist to invite you to the full life God has for you. And here's what you're going to find out. The full life God has for you is not found in consuming. It's really found when you begin contributing. And so we're going to start tonight in Matthew chapter 20, and we're going to really listen to Jesus talk about this topic. So if you have a Bible, go ahead and open up there. If you don't have a Bible, you could Google it real quick. You can get the Bible app on your phone. If you don't have a Bible and you want to own one, catch me afterwards. I want to give you a Bible so you have it. And we think this book, as it tells the story of God and His love for us, has so much to say for your life. We'd love to put it in your hands. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 20, verses 26 and 28. And to set the stage here, Jesus had these followers called disciples. Anyone know how many disciples He had? 12, so much over 12, right? So He had 12 disciples, and among these disciples, there were two that had the same mom, and their mom shows up to Jesus and does something incredibly embarrassing. Can you imagine if you were on the basketball team or the volleyball team or the golf team or whatever else it may be, and the soccer team, and you really, really, really wanted to start, but you weren't starting right now, and you kind of knew the other players in front of you were more talented, they were more skilled, so you were kind of like, I don't really know if I deserve to start. Imagine if your mom, in front of the entire team, in front of you, came up to your coach and just said, Coach, this is terrible, you're wrong, my kid needs to start. Now, sometimes parents, maybe need to do that because there's something wrong, but imagine how you would feel as the kid, right? You'd be like, I'm mortified right now that my mom chose to do this in front of everyone. Well, this mom goes to Jesus Christ Himself, who is God, and kind of tries to ask for something on behalf of her sons that she really shouldn't have. And so what happens is, she goes to Jesus and says, Jesus, can my two boys, my sweet, precious little boys, one day, when you're in all of your glory, and when you're on the throne, can they sit at your right hand and at your left hand? She basically asked if her two sons could have the most privileged position of all. And the boys, they're kind of embarrassed, and the other guys are mad that their mom asked, but this conversation plays out, and Jesus corrects them, and He says, hey, you're thinking about leadership, you're thinking about contributing, you're thinking about being a difference maker all wrong. He's like, you've got it all wrong. if you're thinking about you just being the big deal and having the position, you've got it all wrong. And so he corrects him starting in verse 26. He says this. I'll set up a little more. He says earlier, hey, the people in the world just try to make it all about him. But verse 26, he says, not so with you. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to be great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus calls out this sort of consumer, me-first mindset where they just wanted the position and the power. And he says, that's not how it works with me. So listen up. Don't miss this. Don't get distracted by anything around you or your phone or anything. Listen to me really, really clearly. The best life, the full life, will never be found when you make yourself the center of attention, when you make your life all about you. That's not how it's going to be. Jesus says, not so with you. There's a different way to live. He says, don't go with this consumer mindset where you're first. He says, instead, greatness comes when you decide to make yourself lowly, when you put yourself down and decide to serve other people and put other people first and give of yourself for the sake of those around you. He says that's where true greatness is actually found. The greatest among you will actually be your servant. And so I think Jesus is saying here, hey, I modeled this first, the Son of Man, he's talking about himself. He said, hey, I didn't come to be served. I came to serve. I showed you what it's like. He said, if you want to make a difference, and here's what he's, I think, saying to us today as well, be a contributor. If you want to make a difference, don't make it about you and what you can get. Choose to be a contributor, to serve others, to serve God, to give of what you have for other people. This is not really common thinking, right? As I was looking at just pictures from the weekend and different, like all of your moms post pictures of you on Facebook for homecoming and seeing the picture of the homecoming court, what's the natural thing that all of us would really want, even if we think we're too cool for it? We'd be like, wouldn't it be awesome to be homecoming king, right? Wouldn't it be awesome to be homecoming queen? There's a little bit of us in there that just wants to be first. We want to have the position. We want everyone to look at us and think of us a certain kind of way. None of us, by our nature, want to get down in the dirt and be a servant and just help other people. It's not naturally what we want to do. I think about a story Sean told me this week. You guys know Sean Snyder. He's our middle school coordinator. You might not know this, but Sean used to work at a Dairy Queen, which I think is funny because almost everyone that works at Dairy Queen here is a girl, except for a few people. I know some of you are in the room right now, so shout out to you. But I'm just imagining like high school Sean working at Dairy Queen. But he told me this story about how his manager, the person who ran that branch, was really hands-on as a worker. And so one day, even though he didn't usually run the cash register, the team needed help. And so the manager, the greatest person at Dairy Queen, right, like the boss of this Dairy Queen, he decided to help the team out. He was going to run the cash register instead. And Sean told me that one day while this was happening, a woman came in, and he didn't remember her name, but he referred to her as Karen. I don't know really where that came from, right? She was complaining, she was mad, she was upset about all this stuff, and the guy's just kind of taking it. And Sean said that she got in his face and said, I want to talk to the manager. And he said, you're talking to him right now, and you can leave my store. And I was like, that's the most cool thing a Dairy Queen manager has ever done. That's amazing. It's a really, really cool story, but I love the idea of the boss deciding, hey, you know what? I'm going to come down, and I'm going to just choose to serve and help and not just be above people, but be with people. And Jesus showed us what that was like too. If you know the story of Jesus, you know that even though he was in heaven, literally being worshiped by angels 24/7, all of the riches and all the glory that he deserves was right there available to him. He humbled himself. He came down to the earth, and he came in the form of a man. And he lived a perfect life. Never sinned, never made a mistake, did everything right. And even though he did everything that way, at the end of his life on earth, he was executed for something that he never even did. And he did that because he was living as a servant. He put you and I above himself. He put the good of the entire world over what would have been convenient and easy for him. Jesus is the greatest example of not being a consumer, but living life as a contributor. He did that really so that you could have that full life we're talking about, so that you could experience the full life Jesus has for you. It only comes through relationship with him. And a little bit later on tonight, if you don't have that relationship, I want to give you an opportunity to hear what that means and to even talk to God and start that relationship today. But Jesus is saying in this passage here, hey, I modeled what it looks like. If you want to make a difference, you have to be a contributor. You have to be a contributor. And so what does this look like? How do we do this? How do we choose to be a contributor in all areas of life? Because this is going to impact your home life. It's going to impact your school life. It's going to impact your work life. It's going to impact your sports teams. And it's even going to impact what happens here at church. I would say just first and foremost, we all should walk out of here tonight, and maybe we talk about it in our groups and get some advice on how to do this, but walk into every relationship we have, every sort of environment we go into and say, you know what? How can I serve today? How can I put others above myself? That's a great place to start. But where I want to focus in tonight, because I think this is so cool, is to tell you that you can actually contribute to the best night of the week. That the best night of the week is not something that's for students by Billy. Like, this isn't something that's for students and by Sean and the rest of our team that works here. Grace students, the best night of the week is for students, and it's actually meant to be by students. And so we want you to see that you can contribute to what we're doing here right now in so many different ways. If you don't believe me, flip over to Romans chapter 12, one of my favorite passages that talks about this. We're going to be in verses 4 and 6. And we're going to read about how God has actually, before you were ever even born, he chose you and he gifted you and he gave you a purpose and a meaning for being here. Romans chapter 12, verse 4, starting there, says this. It says, for just as each of us has one body with many members. What's he saying here? He's like, we have one body, but we've got hands, we've got feet, we've got toes, we've got a head, we've got ears. Just as one of us is one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ we, though many, there's a lot of us in the room right now, a lot of leaders, students, though many, we form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. That's why we say Grace Students is family. Because when you're a follower of Jesus, we have this relationship where we're so interconnected. But I love this, verse 6. You might need to write this down, memorize this. Don't miss it tonight. Don't get distracted from this. Verse 6, we have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. You have gifts. You have purpose. You have meaning. And God actually gifted it to you so that you could give it back to him through serving other people too. So what are some ways that you, on a Sunday night, could contribute to the best night of the week? Well, on your seat, there should be a blue piece of paper. It says, be a contributor, and it has a couple different things on it. And I'm going to walk through this. Here's what I want you to do with this piece of paper. Hold on to it, and I want you can start filling it out right now. You're going to take it with you to your group, and we're going to talk about it in group time. Then you're going to give it to your group leader, and they're going to get it back to us. Let me talk through a couple different things on this sheet that you could actually do. Maybe you didn't know this. So where do you fit in? Where do you fit into Grace Students? First, maybe for you, you could jump in for something we call first impressions. I love when I show up to church on a Sunday morning, there's people greeting me at the door. They open the door for me. They say, welcome, glad you're here. Maybe you as a student feel like you've been gifted to be super warm and friendly and accommodating, and God actually wants you to be a part of helping other people feel that way on a Sunday night. I would say this. If you've ever walked in these doors and you felt like, you know what, these people really care about me because they know my name and they know my story and they make me feel welcomed, maybe you should now give back and contribute in that same way. And you could say, you know what, I just want to hold a door on Sunday night to make sure people feel welcome when they show up. Maybe first impressions is for you. Next thing is set up and tear down. Maybe you're a person that loves working with your hands. You love to serve. That's actually a gift from God. You would never want to be up on stage like me with a microphone. Who here would be terrified to be on stage with a microphone? There's a couple, right? Who would love to be on stage with a microphone? There's also some people there too, right? That's me, and it's just being honest, right? If you're that person that would hate to be up on stage, hate for people to know, but you want to contribute, you could say, you know what, I'm going to show up a little bit early so I can help set things up, And I'm going to say a little bit late so I can help tear things down. Why are you doing that? Not just to set up and tear down, but you're literally setting the stage for what God does on a Sunday night, and you're getting it torn down so that the church can continue to do other things during the week. Maybe that's something that calls out to you. You just love working with your hands, things like that. Next, social media. When I say Grace Students is for students, by students, this is a great area for this because I don't know if you know this, but I'm 30 and I'm a dad. And to start with, I went to Norway growing up. So like I don't have any culture, okay? I'm not cool in any way, shape, or form. I'm sorry, Norway boys, but it's just the way it is, okay? So maybe you are really, really active on social media. You're really creative. You like edit your photos just right, and you work on the right caption. You know what hashtags to use, and you know what's trending right now. We would love to allow you to help us craft our content that goes out to people from our accounts. So if that's something that interests you, just circle that box. We want to contact you because we'd love for you to contribute in that way. I'm going to keep moving and move maybe a little quicker. Graphic design. If you have any interest and you work on stuff like Photoshop or you have an app where you edit photos and put stuff together like that, that's another way that you could contribute, and Sean would love you because he's our graphic design guy. Next, video. Maybe there's a part of you that like, I'd love to learn how to edit a video and make a little like trailer or an announcement video or something to go on social media, and you know how to do that, or you want to learn how to do that. Our video producer for our church is in the front row right now going, yes. She's like, please. So if that's you, if you have interest in that, circle video, and we will train you and we'll teach you how to do that. Next, photography. If you're a person, whether it's your iPhone or it's a person, Jess is in the back, and she's like, please do this. If you're a person that wants to learn how to do high-quality photography, maybe you want to be just like a wedding photographer when you grow up someday. We can teach you and train you and set you up to be better at that, and we could use your photography to help show other people what happens on a Sunday night. Continuing on, we've got two things, worship and tech. Worship and tech. The worship team is the team that's up on front here, leading songs. If you've got a hidden talent, you sing, you play guitar, you play drums, and nobody knows about it, you don't even have to talk to anyone. Just circle worship, and I will come talk to you, and we'll get you involved in the band. Maybe you can sing. Does anyone here have a friend that can really sing, but they don't want anyone to know? Who was it? Okay, there's one there. Okay, anyone else? Got someone else? Okay. If that's you, let's talk, okay? Circle worship. It's not just that we want you to be able to sing up on stage. That's cool. We don't want you to miss out on contributing to the church with the gift God has given you. Next thing is the tech team. Tech team's in the back. They're awesome. There's a whole team of people you don't even know are doing stuff, and they're doing stuff all the time and making all this happen. So if you'd love to work behind the scenes and you're good with computers and you want to learn about tech and audio and lighting, again, we can train you, we can teach you, and you can join that team too. Stage, there's a long list here. If you're that person that you can't sing but you want to be on stage, you're like, I'd love to host. Let me host the impossible shot. Let me do some announcements on stage. You can circle that. We'll teach you and train you how to do that. And then finally, the last two things. This one applies, I think it should apply for everyone in the room. You just don't know it yet. There's something that we call influencers. So our influencers group met today for the first time, and we're going to meet the first Sunday of every month. So it's only once a month you have to commit to anything. And we're going to train you on how to be a leader, how to make a difference. Today we talked about what it looks like to be someone who sets the tone no matter what room you go into. And so influencers get some training on leadership. We have an awesome time together. And influencers also get kind of special privilege and sneak peeks on things that are coming up in Grace Students that no one else gets to see. So if that interests you, just circle influencers. We'll be in touch. It's only the first Sunday of the month, but you can make a huge difference. And finally, the last thing, this doesn't happen on Sunday nights, but how many of you in the room serve in Grace Kids? A lot of people in the room? Okay, awesome. So if you come here to church on Sunday mornings and people have ever told you, hey, you're really good with kids, or you have like a nephew or a niece or a little sibling and you're really good at that sort of thing, we would love to help you get plugged into serving. Imagine this. Imagine if God would use you to help a little kid meet Jesus for the first time. That's the sort of thing you'd get to be a part of if you chose to serve in that way. So there's a lot of different ways to serve. There's a lot of different opportunities. What's the point? We want you to be a contributor. When you show up on a Sunday night, don't have the mindset that you're just ready to consume. Have the mindset that you're ready to contribute. You should be inviting friends because you want to help them meet Jesus, and you want to contribute towards what God is doing here. When you show up, you should be worshiping passionately because you want to contribute towards what God is doing here. And so I want you to just take a quick second, and just close your eyes. And I want you to imagine for a moment a Sunday night. Imagine a Sunday night, like tonight or any other night you've been here. And now, just as you, like maybe you're walking around the lobby in your mind right now, imagine if there were no volunteers at all. So all of a sudden you walk in, and the check-in tables were there, but nobody's there to check you in. And nobody opened the door for you. You had to open it yourself, which is a tragedy. And maybe you walk in, and there's no food in the cafe. Please, God, no, don't let it happen. Because no volunteers showed up to do any food. And imagine that there was no group time, because your group leaders, who are all volunteers, have other jobs, and they come here for you. They didn't show up. Imagine what this night would be like if nobody served. It'd be terrible. Like if I didn't show up, you guys would still have a great night. But if none of the volunteers showed up, the whole thing would fall apart. Here's what I want you to see. You can have that same kind of impact on a Sunday night. Grace students could grow and have a huge expansion in our reach for the gospel if every single one of us in the room said, you know what, I'm going to go from a consumer mindset to a contributor mindset. So be a contributor. Don't wait on someone else to do it yourself. If you've got that desire to serve but you're nervous about it, I know you might be nervous, but I don't want you to miss out on using what God gave you for the sake of others and for the sake of the kingdom. So be a contributor. Be a contributor. Don't be like 7th grade Billy on the football team. Be better than that. And you can be. God can use you to make a difference, and it's going to be amazing. Let's respond real quick. Close your eyes. Bow your heads. Maybe today, as you're hearing about this idea of being a contributor, the first thing that comes to your mind is that you actually don't know Jesus yourself. You don't have a relationship with him, but maybe you want to start that relationship tonight. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand or to come up front. This is between you and God, but I want to ask you in advance that you would talk to a leader tonight if this is you. If you need to take that next step to give your life to Jesus, with every head bowed and eyes closed, would you just, in your heart, maybe say something like this to God? If that's what you want to do, say, God, I want to become a follower of you. I realize that you are what's missing in my life. God, I want to give my life to you. I admit that I've made mistakes and I've sinned. I'm asking you to forgive me from what I've done. Give me a fresh start. And I believe you can do that through what Jesus did on the cross. So as best as I know how, I commit to following you. And so with every head bowed and eyes closed, I just want to maybe just invite you to look up. Just look up at me if that's you, if that's what you just prayed tonight. Just look up at me. And what I want you to do is I want you to talk to a leader. Talk to your group leader, talk to me, and just say, hey, you know what Billy talked about at the end there? That was me. I made that decision. And we're going to encourage you. We're going to help you take your next step of faith. And for the rest of us in the room, maybe for us that next step is to just go from a consumer mindset to a contributor mindset. And so here's what I want to do. Just by a show of hands, again, no one's really even looking around, but if you would just say, you know what, I am in to be a contributor. I just want you to lift your hand up if that's you, because I want to pray for you. You're saying, hey, I'm in. I want to be a contributor. I'm ready to take that next step. Just lift your hand up. Don't be ashamed. Let me pray for you. God, thank you for everyone in this room. Thanks for those with their hands raised right now, ready to be a contributor, be that difference maker you've called them to be. Help those of us who are nervous about it to take that step anyway so that we can make a difference for you. God, thanks for Jesus who made a difference for us. We're so grateful for him. Pray that we'd have an awesome night in groups tonight. We pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen.